Sometimes I imagine the basketball gods making modern scoring guards like candy in a slightly chaotic factory. Not elegant handmade chocolate, not some delicate French pastry. More like a jawbreaker rolling around in a machine, picking up layer after layer until it becomes big, shiny, expensive, and just dangerous enough that an NBA front office can look at the price tag and pretend this is all very normal. This summer, that machine produced a 4-year, $273 million Donovan Mitchell. A few years earlier, it produced a 2-year, $2 million Damian Lillard extension. Both numbers made people blink. Both players are small guards by NBA standards. Both are built around pull-up range, pick-and-roll pressure, and playoff shot making. And both raise the same uncomfortable question. How far can this kind of guard really take you? The core of the candy is simple: pick-and-roll basketball. From James Harden at the top end to Cam Thomas at the more chaotic end, a lot of modern scoring guards are built around the same center. Give them a screen, give them a defender to manipulate, and let them turn a 2-on-2 action into a scoring problem. But the basketball gods do not want every guard to come out like John Stockton or mid-career Chris Paul. That would be too neat, too responsible, possibly bad for television. So with some guards, they add more self-creation, a little more tunnel vision, a little less pure floor general instinct. These players are not always trying to solve the entire 5-man puzzle. They're trying to use the screen, create separation, and attack before the defense can finish rotating. And honestly, the logic is not wrong. If the point of the possession is to score, and one screen gives you a clean enough lane or a clean enough jumper, then that is a good possession. You do not get extra points for looking like a graduate seminar in half-court offense. But the best versions of this archetype still keep enough playmaking in the core. When the defense sends 2 to the ball, loads up at the nail, or takes away the first driving lane, they can still hit the roller, find the corner, or keep the possession alive. The difference is not whether the passing exists. The difference is how much of it is still in the center of the candy, and how much has been covered by scoring layers. Lillard and Mitchell come from the same mold, but they do not taste exactly the same. Mitchell has enough pick-and-roll feel to run offense for stretches, but he is not really a pure point guard. His first instinct is to attack. He can pass, he can read, he can organize, but over a full season, you usually want another guard next to him who can steady the game. Lillard, by contrast, has more point guard DNA left in him. He is not the most delicate tactical organizer in the world, but he can carry real offensive volume as the lead initiator. He can run the possession and still be the threat that bends it. Then come the outer layers. The first layer is pull-up shooting. For a modern pick-and-roll guard, this is the layer that changes everything. Without pull-up shooting, the defense can play the screen more comfortably. The big can sit lower. The on-ball defender can recover. The whole possession stays in front of the defense. But once the guard can rise from deep, the geometry changes. The defender has to chase higher. The big has to come up. If he plays at the level of the screen, the roll lane opens behind him. If he drops, the pull-up 3 is available. Suddenly, one screen creates pressure that older school guards often needed several extra passes to manufacture. Lillard, Mitchell, and Harden all have this layer. Harden turned it into an entire offensive ecosystem. Lillard stretched it almost to the logo. Mitchell is also elite, but if we are ranking the coding, his pull-up layer is probably a little thinner than Lillard's and Harden's. The range, volume, and constant fear factor are not quite the same. When Mitchell gets hot, the ceiling can look just as terrifying. But possession after possession, season after season, Lillard's pull-up threat has been the cleaner engine. The next layer is burst and separation. This is where a lot of guards fall off the conveyor belt. You can have touch, you can have size, you can have a nice-looking pull-up jumper, and enough passing to make the box score behave. But if you cannot separate from playoff athletes, the whole thing starts to crack. A physical wing gets into your body. The big is higher than you expected. The first screen does not create an advantage. Now the offense has to start over, and the candy that looked impressive from far away suddenly feels a lot smaller. D'Angelo Russell is a useful example. At his best, he had height for a guard, real shot making, and solid passing vision. He even put up an all-star season. But as defensive intensity rose, the lack of functional burst and rim pressure became harder to hide. Add age, add playoff physicality, and suddenly, the league starts to move past you. Lillard and Mitchell never fell off the belt. Mitchell's explosion is obvious. He was in the dunk contest. He once showed up with a Black Panther-inspired look. The athletic pop was never exactly a secret. That burst is a big reason he has so often been able to puncture playoff defenses. He can turn the corner, absorb contact, change direction, and finish in ways that feel more like a scoring guard than a pure point guard. Lillard looks slimmer, but his burst has always been real. Young Lillard had plenty of violent drives and unexpected dunks. His game just often feels more direct. Part of that is technique, but part of it is role. Lillard is more of a pure guard. When he meets resistance, he's more likely to read the roller, feed the big, or spray the ball out. Mitchell is more wired as a finisher. He adds footwork, spins, changes of direction, and floaters to complete the possession himself. That difference shows up in their shot profiles. Even when the raw number of rim attempts changes from season to season, Mitchell has generally lived with a higher share of near-the-basket attempts than Lillard. He is more comfortable turning the pick and roll into a downhill scoring possession. Lillard is capable of that, but his center of gravity as a player is still a little farther from the rim. So if we are talking about transition and semi-transition, I would give Mitchell the edge. He is stronger, more explosive, and more violent going into the paint. Lillard has athleticism, but he is thinner. And that matters when the second defender is waiting with real playoff contact. Before the most recent playoff runs, the common split was pretty reasonable. Lillard was seen as the higher volume offensive engine, while Mitchell probably had a slightly higher ceiling against long, physical wing defenders. But the actual gap is small. Part of why Lillard's weaknesses became so memorable is that Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday put them on a very public billboard. Once that kind of defensive pressure gets to a certain level, having one more layer of burst and strength helps, but it does not magically solve the archetype. At this point, both players are elite versions of the same product. You can add a little defensive polish if you want. Mitchell has the better tools there. He is more naturally a shooting guard, he has more muscle, and he can absorb contact better. Lillard's defensive limitations are partly the cost of asking him to carry more point guard responsibility, but neither one is some complicated off-ball defensive anchor. In the playoffs, that layer is mostly cosmetic. Nice to have. Not the reason you buy the candy. So, where should they rank? At their peaks, both belong in the same broad tier. Top 15 is a real conversation. Top 10 depends on the season, the matchup, and how much the rest of the roster protects the weaknesses that come with the model. As a primary perimeter option on a playoff team, both are clearly good enough. But the ceiling question remains. So far, each has reached the conference finals once. Both have had exits where the limitations of the small scoring guard became part of the story. And neither has yet proven that this exact build can be the primary engine of a championship team. That does not make the build a failure. It just means the Candy Factory has a limit. You can make the core smarter, you can add deeper pull-up range, you can add more burst, more strength, more defensive shine, you can roll the thing until it is worth $270 million. But at some point in the playoffs, someone is going to bite down and test what is actually inside.